Ripple just turned Ripple payments into a one-stop stack. Collect, hold, exchange, and pay out across fiat and stablecoin rails. And the important part is not the convenience. It's what this signals about control. Because when one platform can run the whole loop, entire categories of intermediaries stop being mandatory. Ripple just made a move that will sound boring if you're listening like a retail trader. It reads like a product expansion. A payments platform added more payments features. But if you're watching this like an institution, it's a different story. Because institutions don't buy features. They buy systems that reduce operational risk, reduce counterparties, and compress settlement time without breaking compliance. Here's the contrast that matters. People think global payments are a move money problem. In reality, global payments are a coordination problem. Funds arrive from one place, in one format, under one rule set. They need to be held safely, converted, netted, routed, and paid out somewhere else, under a different rule set. That's not a single transaction. That's an operating loop. And Ripple just signaled it wants to own that loop. In this video, I'm going to walk through what Ripple actually announced, why it changes the architecture of institutional settlement, how it relates to Swift and interoperability players like Quant, and where XRP fits when the system is designed to run end-to-end. As always, this is for educational and entertainment purposes, not financial advice. Make sure you do your own research before making any investment decisions. If this kind of content resonates with you, a like or subscribe is always appreciated. And if you ever prefer shorter companion pieces, I publish focused myth-busting and under-discussed mechanics on T-Bone Crypto Bytes. They're simply added context, not replacements for the deep dives here. You'll find the link in the description. If you strip away the marketing language, Ripple's message is actually straightforward. Ripple Payments is being positioned as an end-to-end enterprise platform, where a business can collect, hold, exchange, and pay out funds across both fiat and stablecoin rails in one place. At first glance, that sounds like a typical platform expansion. But once you translate it into operational terms, something much more significant appears. Collections means money coming in across different pay-in methods, regions, and payment rails. Managed custody means the moment those funds arrive, they can be held under policy. Not just stored, but governed under enterprise controls, compliance rules, and Treasury logic. Advanced liquidity means value can be converted and routed without building a web of external banking relationships. And payout means funds can be pushed out in the required form, to the required destination, through the appropriate corridor. Seen together, this is not a single feature. It is the entire payment lifecycle, assembled as one enterprise stack. And once you recognize that structure, a much bigger question starts to emerge. What happens to the market when an enterprise no longer needs 4 vendors, 3 banks, and multiple integrations to do what one platform can handle from end to end? There's a reason this matters now. For years, a lot of crypto coverage treated payments like a race. Who settles fastest? Who has the lowest fees? Who has the most partnerships? But institutions don't deploy infrastructure based on speed alone. They deploy based on control, auditability, compliance, and integration into the systems they already run. That's why so much adoption has been slower than people expected. Not because the tech didn't work, because the operating environment wasn't ready. What Ripple is doing here is shifting the frame. Instead of saying, here's a rail, Ripple is saying, here's the platform that can run your entire flow across rails. Think about what that means operationally. Today, a fintech might collect payments in Brazil, custody funds in the United States, convert value through a liquidity venue, and then pay out into Europe through a separate network. Every step adds vendors, integrations, and reconciliation. That fragmentation creates a hidden tax in the system. Capital gets trapped, operations get complicated, and every extra layer adds cost. In a modular world, the most valuable layer is often not the individual component. It's the layer that can coordinate components safely. the system that turns fragmentation into a single workflow. And that is exactly how institutional finance evolves. Not by ripping out everything old, by wrapping old systems and new systems into a unified operating model. This is also the moment Ripple's acquisitions start making sense as one machine instead of a list of headlines. When you buy custody infrastructure, treasury tooling, liquidity capability, and payments connectivity, you're not collecting trophies. You're building a loop. A custody layer is not exciting until it becomes the policy engine for enterprise money. A collections layer is not exciting until it connects pay-ins directly into Treasury logic. Liquidity routing is not exciting until it reduces the number of counterparties you need to touch. And stablecoin rails are not exciting until they can be issued, redeemed, and settled inside a compliant workflow. The story here is integration. If the platform can unify collections, custody, and liquidity, then the enterprise doesn't have to stitch together a Frankenstein stack. They don't have to coordinate between vendors when something breaks. They don't have to reconcile across a dozen ledgers and bank statements with mismatched timing. They get one operational surface, one set of policies, one set of controls, one set of reporting. That is what financial operating system actually means. Now let's connect this to the part most people miss: market structure. In open crypto markets, the default design is permissionless access first and compliance bolted on later. Institutions can't operate that way. They need rule enforcement at the system level. That's why the XRP ledger's shift toward compliance-ready primitives matters in this story. It's not about making the network less open. It's about making regulated activity possible without forcing everything into private ledgers. When you combine compliance controls with an enterprise platform that can custody assets, route liquidity, and settle in a deterministic environment, you get something that looks less like crypto payments and more like institutional infrastructure. And that's the quiet advantage. Ripple is not just building a way to move value. Ripple is building a way to move value with rules, with identity, with permissioning, and with audit trails that enterprises can defend. So does this challenge Swift, or does it still sit under a Swift umbrella? The clean answer is this. Swift is primarily a global messaging and coordination layer. It tells institutions what to do, where to send, what the payment instruction is, and how to format the data. Global banking depends on those standardized instructions and compliance formats, increasingly aligned around standards like ISO 20022. Ripple's play is different. Ripple is pushing deeper into execution, into the operational loop where funds are collected, custodied, converted, and paid out. That doesn't automatically replace Swift. In many flows, Swift can remain the instruction layer, while newer systems handle the settlement and liquidity movement underneath. But it does create a real pressure point. If an enterprise can run a closed-loop payment workflow through one platform with compliant settlement rails, Swift remains important for coordinating institutions, but becomes less necessary for certain categories of cross-border execution. You can think of it like this. Swift coordinates a global network of institutions. Ripple is positioning itself as the platform institutions and enterprises use to actually execute the movement, with fewer handoffs. Swift doesn't become useless, but the boundaries of where Swift is required can shrink, especially in stablecoin settlement corridors and enterprise payout workflows, where the platform owns the full lifecycle. Now let's talk about Quant, because this is where the modular stack conversation gets serious. Quant's core thesis is middleware, a connective layer that allows systems to interoperate without requiring every institution to choose one chain, one standard, one vendor, or one ledger. At first glance, Ripple building an end-to-end platform looks like it competes with that, because if Ripple can orchestrate collections, custody, liquidity, and payout inside one stack, it reduces the need for an external coordinator. But here's the deeper view. As finance becomes modular, orchestration demand doesn't disappear. It grows. The question is, who owns it? Ripple is building orchestration vertically inside its platform. Quant is building orchestration horizontally across many systems. Those can compete in some accounts and coexist in others. If a bank or enterprise chooses Ripple as its operating platform, Ripple can provide the orchestration internally across fiat rails, stablecoins, and settlement layers it supports. That can reduce the need to buy a separate middleware layer for those flows. But in a world where large institutions run multiple ledgers, multiple custodians, multiple venues, and multiple regulatory domains, a neutral middleware layer can still be valuable, especially when the institution refuses to be locked into one vendor's ecosystem. So, the competitive line is not Ripple versus Quant. It's vertical orchestration versus horizontal orchestration, platform control versus neutral connectivity. And Ripple's announcement is a signal that Ripple wants to be the platform layer, not just a rail. Understanding the architecture behind that horizontal approach deserves its own explanation, which we'll break down in a separate deep dive. Now let's bring this back to XRP, because this is where the story either becomes real infrastructure or stays as a narrative. When Ripple builds a platform that can settle across fiat and stablecoin rails, a lot of people assume that makes XRP less important, because stablecoins can move dollars directly. That's only true if you assume the system is single rail and static. In a real institutional stack, you don't optimize for ideology. You optimize for cost, liquidity, reliability, and operational constraints. Sometimes the most efficient path is stablecoin to stablecoin. Sometimes it's fiat to stablecoin. Sometimes it requires bridging liquidity when direct depth is not available at the required size, speed, or spread. That is where XRP's role can persist and expand. As a liquidity tool inside routing, as a bridge in corridors where it compresses friction, as a settlement asset when it becomes the most efficient intermediate between two endpoints. Unlike stablecoins, which remain tied to single fiat currencies, XRP's neutrality can make it useful when bridging value between currencies or markets, where direct pairs lack depth. And when the platform owns the workflow, it can choose the optimal path dynamically, not based on what retail wants to be true, based on what Treasury systems, compliance policies, and risk controls allow. So the bullish case here is not a headline about Ripple payments expands. It's the structural reality that a unified platform can scale volume through the system. And as volume scales, the demand for liquidity efficiency becomes a permanent constraint. XRP can be one of the tools that solves that constraint inside a multi-rail world. Let me close with a thought experiment, because this is the simplest way to understand what just happened. Imagine two futures. In the first future, global finance stays fragmented. Every region has different rails, different stablecoins, different compliance regimes, different custodians, different payout methods. The rails multiply faster than institutions can standardize them. In that world, the most valuable asset is not the single fastest rail. It's the platform that can orchestrate fragmentation into a reliable workflow. The operating system that lets enterprises collect value anywhere, custody it safely, convert it efficiently, and pay it out globally without rebuilding their stack every time the world changes. In the second future, finance converges. One dominant rail wins, one standard dominates, and everything routes through a single network. That future is clean, but it's not how institutions usually evolve. They evolve through layering, integration, and controlled modularity. They keep old systems alive while new systems scale underneath them. Ripple's announcement is a bet on the first future, the modular future, the orchestration future. And if that's the world we're entering, the real question isn't which token wins. The real question is who owns the platform layer that runs the loop. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next deep dive. This channel is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and is not financial advice. Always do your own research and keep the discussion respectful. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, or sharing it with a friend.